Karen,
Yes,
you ever look in the mirror?
sometimes.
A
Pretty
lot
much
of
daily.
the times, actually, I would say. No, but let me finish.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You ever look in the mirror and feel like your eyes are trying to tell you something? Like, hey, buddy, you may think you're making your own decisions, but we've been running this show all along for generations.
No.
You've never heard that?
Well, you asked me if I ever felt that. Well, like heard that from my eyes?
I mean, either one. Felt, heard, we're talking cognizant stuff here.
I'm just kind of critical when I look in the mirror, so I'm hearing other voices going, oh, you should have slept a little bit more, or
Well, that might be them
shouldn't have
too.
eaten that cupcake. That's what I'm hearing.
That might be the eyes too. It turns out your eyes might be right. Not about that, but that the fact that they've been running it for generations. Our guest today has cracked the code on your ancestral blueprint.
Ooh,
and it's
I like
hidden in your eyes. See, she's the founder of Irigenics Ancestral Eye Reading, and if you think your DNA holds secrets, wait until you find out what your irises have been trying to tell you.
Oh boy.
See, she's helped thousands unlock the missing chapters of their story, gathered 80 authors to share their wisdom in the ancestors within, and get this, she's about to launch her own app that lets you read your own eyes.
That is awesome.
Your ancestors have been waiting for this moment, and so have we. Buckle up, because today we're looking deep, literally, into the windows of your soul. The Skeptic Metaphysicians starts now.
My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
so we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something
Anything.
that will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
Hey there, I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
And our guest today, well, she's a pioneer in the field of ancestral exploration, using a truly unique and fascinating approach, the reading of the eyes. Amy Gillespie Doherty, I'm sorry if I messed up your name, is a founder of Irigenics Ancestral Eye Reading, a system that reveals deep-seated ancestral patterns and epigenetic influences through the intricate details of the iris. With a passion for helping people uncover the untold stories woven into their lineage, Amy has directly guided thousands to a greater understanding of their personal and inherited narratives. She's also the visionary behind The Ancestors Within, an award-winning book series that brought together 80 authors and artists to explore the profound ways that our ancestors shape our present lives. And now she's taken this transformative work to the next level with the launch of a groundbreaking mobile app allowing individuals to explore their own eye patterns and unlock ancestral insights like never before. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome to the show Amy Doherty. Amy, how are you doing today? It's nice to see you here.
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me on your amazing show.
Oh, no, it's fun. It's fun to have you, and our audience is really loving you. So
I think they're standing up.
They're excited. Yeah, they're excited about this one. So, yeah. All right. That's enough, guys. Okay. So, Amy, it's. I mean, we've known you for a while. We've been trying to get you on the show for a while. So it's a pleasure to finally have you.
Finally.
And boy, do we have a lot to talk about, because until we met you, we'd never heard of this kind of thing before. So, for those that are unfamiliar with it, can you explain the ancestral eye reading, what it is, and how you do what you do?
Thank you, Will and Karen. I'm thrilled to be here with you guys finally. And that finally is all on me. It's me. Just has not been able to get my schedule together with yours. But yes, ancestral eye reading is something I stumbled into about 15 years ago now. And it is the aspect of looking at your iris and seeing epigenetic patterns, gifts, talents, abilities, unresolved traumas, as well as what your ancestors loaded you up to become.
That's a loaded question.
Wow.
Or answer, I guess. Okay. The obvious question is, how is that possible?
That is an obvious question, isn't it?
It is an obvious question. And I'm going to give you my very unaccredited response, though it's built on 15 years of experience. I truly believe what we're seeing is the sliced DNA helix when we look at the iris. We're seeing like fiber optics.
Oh.
So if you imagine the helix was up there and then it just came right up behind your eyes, and then you had this open view to the DNA. And I would love to see science and the medical community both explore that just a little bit more. But it would appear to be your birth blueprint.
That's very, very
Wow.
fascinating. And we have a lot of scientists that listen to the show. So if you're hearing this and you want to do some research, Amy is open. And
Yeah.
so are we.
Yes.
So let us know. We'd love to connect you guys too. So go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to ask. So in the introduction that you read, it said that Amy stumbled into this. How do you stumble into this field? It doesn't seem very stumbleable.
Right. Well, I was in Mozambique, Africa, doing survival skills training for children. And when I came back to the States, I wanted to continue working with children through my nonprofit. But I didn't have a college degree. So even when I attempted to volunteer for organizations, I had this impressive track record from being in Africa and doing all this aid work, but I still didn't fit necessarily the criteria. So I was taking this class with a guy who did a class on conscious language. People who say, I never win. I can't find love. They kind of project their future in front of themselves. And he was doing something called biooptic holography, looking at the 7 layers of the iris. And I thought, well, that's the coolest thing ever. And he actually had come from the background of iridology. So he'd come from the world of our eyes change all the time. They change in the moment. They change now, now, now. But he didn't really have any photographs of it. So I thought, well, I just want to study a little further. So I studied with him. And then I went as far as I really could with his training. And I thought, there's no pictures of this change. So now I studied with another person doing behavioral iridology, how we have some of the attitudes of our grandparents and great-grandparents. And I studied with him, and he said, no, there's very few things in the eyes that change, that's now known in iridology because of newer cameras and lighting. And at the same time, he said, so these markings are here from the time you're born. Well, I'm thinking, well, now, wait a minute. How can I have a marking in my eye for sibling rivalry with girls when I'm the oldest child? I don't have any siblings. So if it doesn't change, then how does that work? There was just so many questions that I kept pushing. So I trained with 2 or 3 more people on different ways of reading the eyes. And finally, I got to a gentleman who was working with birth order and with ancestors, grandparents to grandparents' grandparents, 2 to 4 generations back. And the light bulb went off. That's what I've been seeing. I've been seeing my ancestors' aspect of a female competitive environment. Whether I get sisters or not, girls are going to come and throw some catty jealousy thing at me. How come Amy gets this? How come Amy gets that? Or creative competition, or any of those things that are associated with the right brain.
Wow.
Stumbled on it after all. Yeah.
So we did.
That's amazing, though. Oh, my gosh.
So when you look at an eye, I in preparation for the show, I've been looking at my eye all the time. I don't see anything in my eye at all. And yet I've followed you. I've done some research onto you, and you have pictures on your site of what people should be looking for and things like that. I don't see any of that in my eye. So could it be that I'm just an orphan and my ancestor says, nope, I'm out of here. You're on your own, bud?
You're looking at the wrong eye.
No way. So everybody has indicators in their eyes that'll tell us, basically what energetic pattern you're in, how you interface with other people. All that information will be there. And one thing that I stumbled into as I started doing ancestral eye reading is that images of our ancestors will also show up in the eyes. And that was a complete stumbling. I would look at an eye and say, well, that looks kind of like a dog, or that looks kind of like a priest or a nurse. And then I had people start saying to me, don't you see that nurse in my eye? Don't you see that nun? And so finally I had to say, okay, God, all right, God, if this is where it's supposed to go, then just keep guiding me. And I went back to pictures I'd taken in my very earliest years, and the images were always there. I just didn't recognize them. So Will, you're not an orphan. You're not a lost stepchild. You have amazing information in your eyes. People who have what I call blanketing eye texture, where it looks almost like you're looking at a piece of cloth with maybe just light kind of wrinkle lines or fold lines in there. Mm-hmm. Those people have a more difficult time seeing images. It has to do with the density of the eyes. People who have openings where it's almost like you're looking into Swiss cheese, like there's openings that are like holes, like light holes. Those people see images more readily. But people like yourself who don't see images readily, once somebody kind of ovals them or highlights them, then all of a sudden you can be like, you know what? I see that, or I don't see what you're looking at, but what about that one over there?
Oh,
So
right.
we'll go looking.
Oh, okay, yeah. It just so happens that we did take a picture of each one of our eyes, and we're going to go over that here in a few. But I tell you, I poured over my eyes, and all I saw was mud in my eye. So I don't know. That's
Dun.
you had to. I had to. Right?
That
I
was
had
bad.
to, right?
That was, yeah. Sorry, Amy. Sorry, everyone listening.
That's so good.
Now, when I saw some of the images on your site, and some of the research that I did, it's almost like you're seeing someone in a mirror in the dark or something like that. When you circled the people, like there are actual people in someone's eye. It's like a reflection that you're seeing in the mirror. Is that kind of what you should be looking for?
Yeah, you said that very well. So the images are typically layered. I don't think anybody has less than 200 images in their eyes.
200?
Wow.
Now, in dark browns, they're oftentimes really tiny. Like you want to macro loop them up. If you're on a Mac computer, they have an option under tools called annotate loop, like a jeweler's loop. And then you can really get in there and bring them up and take a look at them. The thing is, it's like if you looked at an old newspaper photograph, let's say from World War II. So it wasn't a terrific quality to start with, right? Then you see there's 5 people on the deck of a ship. And maybe one person's shoulder is blocking the other person's hat is blocking the other person's. So you're only seeing partial. You're not seeing a single silhouette, right? And as you're looking at that, what you find is if you go in with a magnifying glass and you try to get really close and look at it really big, it'll eventually pixelate out. It'll get to where you can't identify anything. So sometimes keeping it smaller, looking at your images on your cell phone will always be the better way. The high resolution screen and the tininess of the images, and then you can really super expand on that high resolution. And so if you're having trouble, especially on a big screen, when people look at these on a 60-inch screen, I'm like, well, good luck. They're really stretched. That photo is made so big that sometimes you lose those tiny images.
Ah, interesting.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right. Well, I mean, I think at this, I kind of, unless you have another question, I kind of want to go to the eye.
Well, I have a question
Okay.
first. So we're talking about the eyes kind of being like the cross section of the DNA. Are eyes like snowflakes? Is everyone's eye different? Like is every eye different? Like jillions of eyes?
Every eye is different, and every eye is like an entire planet or universe.
Wow.
And it's really an amazing experience to go in there and look at them. But also, we talked about these images. So the images that show up in the fibers of your eye, in the actual kind of fabric of your iris, those will be the same every time we look at your eye photos. Those that are in the moisture, in the sclera, in the pupil, or in the moisture across the eye, those are, like you say, like looking into a river or a pool of water. And every time you take your pictures, you'll wind up with different images in there. So very much like Masaru Emoto's work, where he freezes the crystals, introduces a word, it's like that. There's kind of a change in each time you take a look.
So it's almost like your eye is like a crystal ball. You know how the crystal ball always, the images are always shifting and changing, and the eye is like a crystal ball into your soul. That's kind of
That's very cool.
I just don't want to see Madame Tussauds in my.
So kind of getting to the images of the actual ancestors, do those change or do those stay?
The ones in the moisture will change every time. They're a mixture of the light and the energy, the frequency, and the ones that are in the fibers, they will stay. Now, they will look different depending on how much your pupil's dilated. So if you take your picture one time outside and your pupil's super dilated, then they're going to be at their major length, as long as they could possibly get. But if your pupil's kind of, I said that wrong. If your pupil is like pinpoint, like you're out in the sunlight and your pupil's really, really small, they'll be as big as they're going to get. But if you then take a picture inside and your pupil's much bigger, then the iris is shorter, smaller. So then your image will be shorter. So you sometimes can find a perfect point where it's like, oh, there I really see it.
Yeah.
When I'm taking those photos, that's what I see. I'll see images almost moving around when I'm trying to take the picture. And then when I see like something so crystal, that's when I snap it. Because we want to capture that so the person can go looking later.
Wow, that's just incredible. So the pictures, the ancestors are in the iris, not in the pupil.
They can be in the pupil.
Oh, it can be in the pupil.
I have seen some. Yep. In the pupil, they're more like you said, that mirror image, like on a black mirror, right? It's like a mirror image when you see them in the pupil or in the sclera. But the ones in the iris, some of them you'll see are in the fabric and some in the moisture.
Okay. So then you're on the show called The Skeptic Metaphysician. So I've got to ask the obvious question that people are asking.
Please do.
How can you be sure that these aren't just random images in people's minds that, when you look in the clouds and you say, oh, I see a bear or I see a cat or whatever. How can you be sure that it's not something like that?
You can't.
Okay.
That was a pretty short answer.
Pretty good.
I'm going to be honest, right?
Yeah.
So I've had people say, oh my gosh, that's my grandfather. Oh my gosh, that's my great grandmother. I've seen pictures of her when I was, a little kid in the house. So we know that. Now, our past lives showing up as well. Our ancestral memories showing up as well. Is it the frequency of the building you're in? Are you picking up something in a building that's kind of popping in there energetically? Now, I trained a couple of people how to do Irigenics Ancestral Eye Reading, and we've been at shows together, and we've been like, what do you think? Could there be a ghost in the building? Right? But then we're like, well, we've taken 80 pictures today, and the same image isn't in any two eyes, so not likely. But the other answer to this is Irigenics is a word that my husband and I created for this business. And Ira is the iris, the flowers, the rainbow, the color structure. And Genics is the study of the connection between the two. And so Irigenics will always be a study. So for me right now, part of the reason I'm making the app is because I want to get back behind the research end of it a little bit more again. So there's a gift for writing at 6 o'clock in the eyes. In the right eyes, it's tech writing, business, organized writing, legal, that kind of thing. The left eye is the creative. It's the spiritual writing. It's the poetry or music, children's writing. So if those gifts are at 6 o'clock, all gifts are in the eyes. It's a matter of mapping.
Wow.
I'm not sure I follow. When you say these gifts are in your eyes, if I just want to write poetry, I close my right eye and just look with my left as I'm writing down, or how does that pertain to us?
That's a great question. No, the indicator that I would see that says you have a gift for writing would show up there. There'd be either a crease or an opening. There would be something showing me a gift for writing that is inherent, that you're born with. Okay. So if that one's there, then where specifically is music? Where specifically is, athletic prowess? And so there's got to be a ton of mapping beyond my time.
Gotcha.
So maybe if you've always kind of wondered about doing something but thought, I probably wouldn't be any good at it, lo and behold, you have that in your system and you didn't know it. So you might more confidently be able to try that.
So I made a mistake.
Oh.
I took a picture of my right eye. Dang it.
Oh, that's okay. Well, you've got time to do your left while we're looking at your right.
Well, I am very glad that you've been training other people, because you remember how hard she is. We met Amy at was it with Fair? We went to was it the Spirit Body?
Mind Body Spirit
Mind and Body, yeah. And there was a line so long. We stood in it for a while. We're never able to get in. And then we saw her again at a fair, I think at Edgar Cayce.
Edgar Cayce, yeah.
Stood in line again, gave up. But then, right before they closed, I'm like, I think we can get in. So I was very fortunate. I was able to get my eyes. You are a hot demand.
Oh, and the whole thing, Irigenics is fascinating.
It
really. I mean, it's incredible. All right, I can't wait anymore. I'm gonna pull up our eyes so you can take a look and see what we can
weird.
find.
I'm gonna pull up our eyes.
Yeah, that's true. One second. Let me see if I can't bring up the first eye. If you're only
oh wow, we can read that.
If you're only listening to this, then do yourself a favor, go to newrealitytv.com, check out the episode that Amy is on, because you're going to want to see this picture as Amy talks about the eye. So first, ladies first, we're looking at Karen's eye first and foremost. So, okay, Amy, what do you see?
And we took Karen's right eye, correct?
We did take Karen's right eye, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't take it, but we...
Oh, but wait, I have contacts in. Does that matter? Oh, okay.
Nope. You're in great shape. Well, okay, so Karen has a little bit of a constant to-do list. I have to, need to, supposed to, should, I've got to do this, ought to do that. How far are you from your to-do list right now?
Well, it's a mental to-do list, so it's never far from me. But it is there, man, incessantly.
Well, let me tell you, when you do yourself a favor and put it on paper, then you will be able to check things off. It's like setting your alarm clock. I got to get up at 3 o'clock, got to get at 3 o'clock, got to get at 3 o'clock. As soon as you set the alarm, it's out of your head and you can go about doing what you do. That's what your to-do list does for you. So lean on it a little more.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting about you have a number of interesting things. You have where we look at what we would call 7 o'clock in your right eye. So, yep, you've got a pointer. Perfect.
Yep.
So you see this, that darkish spot there, yes? That darkish coloration. Now, and above that's another darker spot. That darkish coloration is called a postage stamp, which means it's an ancestral pattern that's almost done as long as it's not really re-energized. So what that means is it was an issue your ancestors struggled with that should be kind of done with the times. So let's tell you what it's about. That spot there between 7:30 is kind of on the border of two things. One, the smaller, darker spot is actually kind of in the line of your father's experience of their pregnancy with you. Now, interesting enough, that parental line shows up whether the man knows he's father to child or not. So somehow there's like an energetic connection between the fetus and the father. But basically, the pupil is at conception. And when we go all the way out to where we meet the white, the sclera, that's birth. So in there, somewhere about 3.5 to 4 months in, your father had some kind of high energy, I'm going to call it a trauma, but some kind of high energy moment. Now, that doesn't mean it's about you. It can be about you, like your mother being told, oh, you're going to have to go on bed rest. Dad's going to have to take care of everything. There's, you're not going to be able to work, that kind of thing. But it can also be if he has a best friend in a car accident, that will also show up in that spot. What's unusual about it is, for whatever reason, when it comes to the right eye, the timing will follow in your life. Like you're trying to start a new business, and then at about 3.5 to 4 months, something locks up. So you can find this in your relationships. You can find it in like buying a house or selling a house, and the contract's just about done, and then it falls through. You're starting a new business, and all of a sudden the legal documents aren't working out. But for some reason with that right eye, it feeds in that way. But that postage stamp right next to it is what they call identity inheritance. Now, identity inheritance is when someone's been cut out of the will. Or, so the boys inherit because they're boys, but the girls don't because they're girls, right? And remember, I said this is an ancestral postage stamp. So it means it's an ancestral pattern that's kind of going away. It's kind of should be watering out with the times, because now you can leave money to daughters and sons. And if you don't have a daughter, she doesn't have to get married, so you can leave it to her husband, right? That kind of thing. But identity inheritance can also be like being one of the Jackson 5 who doesn't inherit the gift of dance. They go to dance lessons, they go to everything, and everybody else in the family can do it, but they can't. They got cut out on the family gift or the family name kind of thing. Now, just above 3 o'clock in this eye, now the right eye tells us about identity as well as vocational and business aspects, shows your beautiful gift for expression and interpretation. You have a unique way of taking information in and bringing it back to the world. But also that gift of expression is the ability to create from a feeling. So you decide you want to make something and you want it to feel like this. And everything you do, it's that feeling that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. You have the sensitive eye structure. So you physically feel things. And you have what's known as the shaman or the tribal texture, which means that you have an almost telepathic ability to pick up other people's thoughts, as well as synchronized movement. So you may find yourself at the same time, at the same place with somebody that you haven't talked to all week, but there you are bumping into each other. You just have that synchronized clocking that works with your tribe, whoever you deem to be your tribe people. Now, there's one interesting thing here that that comes a little bit, that comes a little bit after the beginning. You see that kind of squiggly line around your pupil? So you have your pupil, and then there's that little bit of a squiggly line. That's the autonomic nerve wreath, and that's supposed to be there. Usually it would be fairly round. Yours is a little bit squared, almost like you could set a ruler on it, Can you see that?
Yeah.
Usually that happens when somebody's been through a tough time in their life. They've been through some point in their life where they've felt like, I can't live this way. This isn't working for me anymore. I need out. I need a change. We call it the resiliency square. Years ago, we used to call it the suicide square. And then Johns Hopkins said, don't call it that, Amy.
Probably good idea.
But it's not completely incorrect. It's where someone's been through a tougher time in their life, and they're kind of fighting their way through. A fun marking in your eye, 4 o'clock. You see that little crease there with the little spot at the end? Yeah, that one. That's born to become. We call it the J.K. Rowling mark. This means that here's Karen. She's on this life trajectory. She's got this path laid out in front of her, and she's cruising along. Everybody knows Karen's going to grow up and do this. Karen's going to grow up and do that. But at some point, your life makes a major change to something completely unexpected.
Surprise!
Surprise! And that mark was there when you were literally a day old. Now, I don't know. Are we able to zoom at all, Will?
Let me see.
We may or may not be able to.
I don't know if it will zoom for you. Did that
Oh,
zoom?
look at that. Now, do you see below that ancestral postage stamp, that big mark at 7:30? Do you see, just go to the left a bit, there's a man right there. You got your key right on him, even if you don't see him.
I do.
He's facing down. I think just on the inside of that postage stamp, you've also got a man who looks, I mean, from my angle here, he looks almost like the George Washington type. His hat is up almost to the top of that postage stamp, and the bottom of the postage stamp is almost on his right shoulder. So we're seeing like a head, shoulders, and down a bit to the torso. And there you've got your, you've got eyes everywhere. I mean, you've got images everywhere, my dear. I mean,
wow.
let's just go swimming, right?
Holy mackerel. That's
You
wild.
have, I would say, there's 3 images above that man that we saw towards 8 o'clock. Yep. Just above that. You got your pointer just about on the back of a boy down below just a bit. There's the top of his head. Circle around. Yeah, so there's his head, and below that we're seeing his left side. He's got almost like a light white shirt on, or even maybe pajama top on. And so where Will was, we had his head, and then we're seeing his back, and his left shoulder coming down. And there's a facial image almost right where Will is again, coming in from the sclera.
Huh. Now that one I don't see.
Do you see the person, if you go up where the eye is lighter, up by 9:30, 10 o'clock?
Here?
So imagine you're looking at someone who is showing us their back. We're seeing the right shoulder, and they're looking over that right shoulder. We're seeing the facial line with hair that's a little bit more light brown or maybe a bit sandy colored. But they've got their back to us. And when someone has their back to us, this means it's someone unknown. Somewhere there's somebody missing in your family line. Could be someone who was raised by a grandparent, someone who was a foundling. It can be where the records building has burned down and there's simply no trace of this person, no way to connect to them. But you could have somebody come to you from 23andMe or from Ancestry.com and say, we're related, but I can't find it.
Wow.
You may not be able to find it. There's a few missing people. That's when we get that silhouette, like somebody walking away from us from behind. You did a brilliant job with these pictures, by the way.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to say the last one, and you're probably going to cut me off after I say this one. Down at about 5:30, you see that darkish, right down there, and down just below that darkish spot.
Yeah.
That's kind of in the area that we would call promiscuity.
Oh.
Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that your ancestors or you were headed towards a promiscuous life, but it's that person who people say, you're going to do what? You're wearing that lipstick? Could you button one more button? You know, they just get that pointing at them all the time, all the time. And this is how ancestral patterns work. If you engage a pattern, like let's say you're in a situation where it's between you and your brother who's going to get grandma's car. And for some reason you get beat out and your brother gets it. And you're like, but grandma taught me how to drive in that car. That was my car. It was always going to be my car. When you're engaging, the dynamics of what happened to you will match the dynamics of what happened to your ancestor. For them, it might have been a horse and carriage. For you, it's a car. But the words that come out of you are their words coming out in English, even if at their time it was in Spanish or it was in Latvian or it was in whatever language it may have been in. It's like those words, that's not right. That's not fair. That should have been mine. It's like you're redeclaring and you're saying, yes, this is still a trauma for us. This still causes drama and trauma. This situation needs to continue to imprint in our epigenetics.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's why the postage stamps are so great, because it means whatever situation your ancestors had, you're clearing it. It could be that they were kings that had to leave the kingdom to the prince, and you're not in there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, go big. I'm all about the big. You did that really well, Will.
Thank you.
You did that really well. Yeah, and just inside that spot at about 245, where we were talking about that gift for interpretation, there's like a young man. Yep, there's a young man just right outside of that, towards the white sclera again. So we see the shadow. We see the hairline. Now we see we got too close to the ship and we pixelated just a bit. Drop back to, there you go. We see the face. We see the, the straight across haircut like boys get in 7th grade. And his shoulders, and that's it. He's just a bust. He's just a bust figure there. Yeah, he did.
So it's cool. It's not just images of people, but it's actually markings in your eye too that bring up a lot of information about the person whose eye you're studying. That's incredible.
Absolutely. And up at about 1 o'clock in her eye, you'll see another one of those darkish spots. And that's right on the line between martyrism and escape. So martyrism is, I'll go, I'll do it, I'll take care of it, I'll be the one. And escape is, why did I do it? Why did I say I was going to do this? Why did I? So if you've had any situations of being trapped or feeling like you needed to escape.
Yes.
And even, especially like in family stuff or in promises, that's an ancestral pattern just rearing its head again. So the name of the game is resolve.
Yeah.
So when that moment comes and you found yourself in a promise that you're like, oh, why did I say I'd do this? Just take a moment and go, oh, that is so ancestral.
It's not my fault. No.
It's not my fault. And you know what? It's not my problem, and I'm not going to engage it today. I'm just going to let it go for 24 hours. Yeah. And you might find that the person that you made the promise to comes back and says, oh, that was so nice of you to offer, but you know what? I got to back out. You'd be like, where'd you come from? Where'd that come from? I'm telling you, when you put some love on your ancestors over these old patterns and just decide to let them water out instead of engaging them as you might have in the past, either headbutting with someone else or that internal chatter in front of the mirror, right? When you get to the point that you can let those go and de-energize them, you can watch all kinds of things just suddenly be available, be free, like show up out of nowhere. It's really quite amazing when you start working with them. We think of our ancestors as just a name on a family tree if we didn't know them, but we're all carrying we carry about 80 ancestors in our DNA, but it comes from a pool of 11 generations, which is 4,000. Wow. So none of us actually knows who all we're related to. So when we're sure we're always going to be broke because all our ancestors were broke, we don't know all our ancestors. There's some rich dudes back there.
All right. Well, we gave you the easy one first.
Here comes Bill.
When you mentioned the folds and that kind of stuff, I think that's kind of me. So I'm going to show you now the other eye and see what you thought are.
Oh, look at those achievement rings. Wow.
Is that what those are? Achievement rings?
Those are achievement rings, yeah. Oh. So you see what looks like scratch lines, right? Yes. Yeah. That's that constant have to, need to, supposed to, should. I've got to do this. I ought to do that. That just constant push, constant motivator. So you had ancestors who had to motivate themselves. They had to get down to the docks. They had to get themselves up in the morning and get themselves going. So you see up at 12 o'clock, you see that sharp line there? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's in identity. Those people who can't ever get your name right. Now, it's also identity in whatever respective identity, being identified as Asian or Native American or African American. It's It's labeling, right? It's identity. Interesting enough, you have markings in altruism just outside of that at 11 o'clock. Now, altruism is when we give or do something for somebody and it goes wrong. So have you ever had somebody say to you, well, Will, I didn't ask you to do that.
No. Yes.
Right.
All the time.
Or thought you'd quick help Karen out by throwing the clothes in the wash and shrunk her favorite blouse. Or it comes out some weird color and you're like, oh, shoot.
Damn.
Why did it?
Did you talk to her about that?
I thought you just wanted to get out of doing laundry.
Well, that too.
No. Somebody said to me, is that a thing? I'm like, oh, yeah, altruism is a thing. Altruism is where your ancestors gave something and then some part of it just went wrong. And likely they knew before they ever did it that it was not going to go well. So giving up your seat on the boat to America, and then there's no more boats, right? Somewhere they had an altruistic move. Now that also could be that placing a child for adoption or rehoming for the child's own good, but the child will never know how you suffered for giving them away. So if you ever had a situation of having to give away a beloved pet, that's often the altruism mark, because it's not so common to have to give away a child, but to have to give up your cat or dog is sometimes the way that it reenacts in American world today, if that makes sense.
It does. It totally does. Interesting.
Wow.
Now, you had some trouble with people not listening to you.
Wow. This is freaking me out.
Yeah, that one's right there at 2 o'clock. Right there at 2 o'clock. That's the whole not being listened to, not being heard, especially when it comes to business sense. Trying to talk people through. You also have that beautiful born to become marking. Just going to say that. And it is on the line of, it's your vocational line. So it means that whatever your new trajectory is, it involves your vocation. So if you think of somebody like, well, J.K. Rowling, of course, her books, but if you think of David Pelzer, A Boy Called It, how he went through that horrible abuse as a child, but then it became a book and a vocation, right? It became a vocational aspect. So you're born to become, at least a good deal of it is going to be in your effective of your vocation. Now, masculine competitive environments. Well, so if we look at about 8, there's like a very light area and then a dark spot. See that darkish to the right, just a little bit below? So that is masculine competitive environments. It's sibling rivalry with brothers. It doesn't mean you get brothers, but this is legal competitiveness, business competitiveness. It can be board games and sports. It's any masculine or left brain competitive area. So left brain competitive can be chess, physics, geometry, those kinds of things. But it's where your ancestors had trouble with a masculine competitive environment. Now, they could have been in the military. They could have just been brothers. They could have been business people. This is where when you have 2 uncles who are partners and then the partnership takes a dive, this is where you'll find that kind of marking. But it also shows your competitiveness, your ability to beat the clock. You have a bit of marking in clever rebellion, so you know the workaround. Your ancestors.
Did you guys talk before this? This is like, holy cow, Amy! Oh my gosh.
Now, I can't tell without looking at your left eye, but I would lean towards. Did you have a high trauma incident before you were 2 or 3? It's something somebody would have had to tell you about, not something you would remember.
I don't know. I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but I know a little bit later in life I had very significant trauma.
You had a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the pupil takes on a little bit more of a grape shape rather than round, a little bit of ovaling, and you'll have to look at your left as well. In this case, just because, well, you know what? Let's make the image smaller. Let's take it down in size.
Smaller?
If you can. Let's see how little it'll let you go.
I think that's I can bring it up, but I can't.
But it won't let you take down. I would lean towards that's kind of on that grape shape. So when that happens, it's an early childhood trauma, preconscious memory, that ovaling. And so it means you were at some point where you thought you were going to be killed. But you were so young, you wouldn't remember it. It's preconscious. Like you don't remember having your diaper changed. You don't remember your first steps. So you don't make a formed thought of, I think I'm going to be killed, but you would have been screaming. And it can be something simple, like a doctor coming at you with a mask or holding you down to give you a shot, or as simple as tumbling out of the crib. 1 minute, everything's fine, to everything is not fine.
Well, see, my mother was always very tight-lipped about stuff, so this could very well be she just hasn't told me. We did have some challenging times right from the time I was born to the time we left the island. I was born in Puerto Rico. I was raised in Puerto Rico. It was some challenging times there for the family as a whole. So, and there was something that she mentioned about someone maybe wanting to kill my brother and I, but that was
what?
Yeah, no. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on. I would highly expect that when you take a picture of your left eye, you're going to see it there as well. And the way to check it the easiest is to make the picture really small, because then your shape of your pupil will really pop out at you. This is one of the few things in the eyes that gender imprints. So let's say you fell into the swimming pool, and the person who saved your life is a man who grabbed you out and is like, Will, are you okay? Are you okay? That for you would make that imprint, because you don't know what happened. You just know somebody was in your face and they were screaming and yelling and whatnot. So when it shows up in both eyes, it means both genders were involved. Like two parents, could be one parent holding a child and the two of them are screaming at each other. But again, it can be a tornado situation where everyone in the room is screaming when you get both eyes that are oval. It can very well be that. What it did is it shifted you. So your birth personality is what we call the sensitive, which is someone who is physically sensitive to everything. When it comes to sports, it's any sport that powers up in stillness. Golf, darts, pool, anything where you process the movement first and then move, right? And this moves you from that original, what's called the sensitive eye structure, to what's called the performer. And performers perform, whether it's in sports or whether it's in business or whether it's how they show up. If you're not going to finish first, you will finish memorable. People will know that Rodriguez was there. There'll be a flare.
That explains a lot.
That explains so much.
There'll be a flare to it. As to images, everybody has images. Now, on dark browns, you want to zoom in. So let's go in and take a little closer look. Okay, so I see the shadow of a boy. Well, actually, I see the shadow of a ship. Could be both. Coming down here between 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock. The face would be, right there. Right there is face. You're just coming around the right ear of that young child. And we don't really make them out so well, but I see that child's face. But when I back away from it, it looks very much like a ship, like a large ship. The kind that would have had like sails, like the Bounty, right? The Bounty kind of ship. But zoom in even a little bit more, please.
So you know what I see?
Tell me.
I see the face of a sloth right here. Right? It's got a little smile, the eyes and the nose. See,
I can live with that. How about just 1 inch up from your pointer, just right there? Do you see the white dress of a woman dancing with like a swing dress that flares out?
Here?
You're just to the left of it. You're on her skirt line. Gosh, I want to control your pointer in the worst way. Oh. Come up about an inch to the left. Stop.
Oh yes, yeah. I do see that. Oh, wow.
The skirt, the hemline. Yep. And there, now we see her arm, her hair pulled up, but there's also another face in there now. Now where the dress is, there's a second face of someone who was like maybe a man with his hair pulled back in a tail.
Or like Bozo the Clown?
Potentially, but
got a big nose.
Yes.
Well,
yeah, you gotta know. Go ahead.
I've seen a face like we can zoom out again, like a little bit more. Okay, so go all the way up to the top, like 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
and there's like eyes, like see the shadow of the eyes, and then there's the nose right there and the hairline.
Here,
yeah, he's like looking out.
Very much so. And you're looking at some of the larger images. If you come in, just a bit more. Nice. You've also got images kind of all along this pupil. You could go back just one step.
Yeah.
You see them now? And also up above, especially oh my gosh, stop right there. So at 11 o'clock up above, so you've got the crease lines, the short crease lines at 11, go just above that, about an inch. Now zoom just a hair. There's like a young man studying who's got like almost rusty hair just above that crease line. And up to the white part, that's his longer neck, his face, and again, hair with a little bit of a thicker cut. So what often works and what works the best oftentimes, are you Mac users or HP?
Max.
Okay. So what often works with the Mac is, well, you could send the pictures to me and I could circle and point to everybody. But what often works with that is there's tools, annotate loop. That's where you can really custom zoom in and out and control the size of the area. But there's also tools, annotate oval. So once we put the oval around like that woman in the white dress, then they're really easy to see. That's what you saw on my website in the gallery. Like, here's the person circled. Because before you circle them, sometimes they're not so easy to pick out. But once you've got them framed, people will be like, oh my gosh, there's people in there.
Right.
And again, you guys, dark brown eyes, you two did a magnificent job on these photos.
Well,
thank you.
We owe that to you and your wonderful video that you have on New Reality TV.
And where can you find that video?
Yeah, if you are curious as to how to take your own eye photos, all you need to do is go to newrealitytv.com and go to the shorts, and you will see her videos there.
Well, let's talk about what she's doing on New Reality.
Yeah, let's talk about what you're doing in New Reality. What are you doing in New Reality, Amy?
So I have a show called The Eyes Have It, Unlocking Your Ancestral Code with Amy. And it is a series of episodes. Some people who have really cool eyes, some people who have fascinating careers, maybe in other, what do I want to say, new age type things. Like today, I just worked with someone who's a psychotherapist and compared what psychotherapy reveals about people to what shows up in the eyes. Human design compared to what shows up in the eyes, or astrology compared to what shows up in the eyes. I'll also be doing some episodes with those who've maybe come through some really wild traumatic stories, Department of Corrections, those who've been incarcerated, those kind of people. Well, it's not those kind, but that group of people. Yes. Also adoptees, those who've met their birth families, those who have never met their birth families, talking about, kind of the different aspects of how your genetics weave in with your environmental experience and your ancestors, how they play out. And so if you had sibling rivalry with girls in your genetic line, you will likely drop into the perfect house for you to resolve that pattern, right, in your adopted home. And so there'll be some different kind of pillars going on in the series. And then, as you said, the shorts show people how to take eye photos, because I want everybody to look at their eyes and start seeing what's in there and start experiencing, some of the amazing detail and information that we can learn from looking at our blueprint.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
So, so if people have issues and you can kind of see these markings in your eyes that maybe where they came from through your ancestors, is that something that then they could, I guess they would take that and then maybe work with a therapist to resolve that, or can they work with you to resolve that? How does that work? What's the next step?
Very much so. And I'm just going to tell you right now, those people who are saying like over and over again, the people, they have the same thing happens over and over and over, right? So if it's weird, bizarre, unique, would only happen to you, happens to you over and over again, or people would say, oh, only so-and-so, or happened up to age 8 to 10, it's ancestral. All day long. So those people who went ballistic over toilet paper during COVID?
Yeah.
We all know them, right? They're going through an ancestral pattern. Their ancestor may have been in World War II and couldn't get stockings to get a job. And eventually one of their children gets sick. And because they don't have a job, they wind up losing their child. And it's all blamed on that moment. They walked in the store and they saw somebody leaving with the last pair of stockings, right? Those people who are almost like stealing toilet paper out of carts at Walmart.
Yep.
Right? We bought a bidet. Right?
We did too.
We did too, yeah.
Right? So you can, we have this B-52 bomber that flies over our house all the time, spraying the crops. And we're like, that is so wasted on us. We don't have that ancestral pattern. But maybe our neighbors next door do, because we're just like, there he goes again. Right? And that's when they're resolved. So yes, if we know somebody's story, I could just start drawing their eyes. Right? If I know what they've had an issue with over and over and over again, I could just start drawing it out. Like, okay, mark over here, mark over here, mark over here. So working it out is all about resolving. It's all about saying, what do I have that my ancestors didn't? We have legalese. We have online. We have passports. If our loved one gets sick in Japan, we can get on a plane and fly to Japan. You know, we have new tools that they didn't. We have clean water, ambulances, all these things. So their traumas usually show up in our world as more of an annoyance than a really life or death scenario, usually, and hopefully most or all the time. So working through that pattern is something one can do on their own. They can do with me, but they can also go to a therapist and say, I think this is an ancestral pattern. I think I'm getting triggered by something my ancestors had a real ordeal with. Or in the moment, they can stop and say, oh, this is so ancestral. I don't know whose this was, but I'm so sorry you went through this, because in 2025, it stinks. In your time, it must have really been bad. But you know what? We're in a new world. We have news at our fingertips. We have 911. We have all these things. And I'm not going to engage this today. I'm just going to let this energy out. I'm going to breathe through it. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and think about what I want to do with it in 2025.
Right.
Wow.
And that's one of the powerful things about your show on New Reality TV is that the more you listen and watch these types of, not explaining, but the readings or whatever, the sessions, when you're explaining these things to folks, the more that they hear, the more that they see, the more that they start making the connections, and then they can start making that connection inside themselves, so they can identify the things that are ancestral, and rather than on their own. Right?
Absolutely. And really, my whole emphasis getting into this was working with kids. And when I came back to the States, I thought, what is it that's harming American children? And it was really self-destructive behaviors and suicide patterns. And so, you know how kids are. I'm the common denominator. It's my fault. Right? It's all my fault. And I'll tell you, when you have kids that take fault for everything, like, oh, don't worry about it, it's my own fault. I should have known better. It's my fault. Oftentimes, something happened during the pregnancy where the parent's trajectory changed. Maybe someone was about to go to school. Maybe someone was about to leave the relationship. But something changed the trajectory. And it just gives them this imprint that they can't seem to shake of, it's my fault. By the same token, you'll run into kids who will say, I don't know what's wrong with me. What's the matter with me? There may have been something wrong with the baby during the pregnancy. And it didn't even have to be wrong. It could just be them being told, ooh, your baby could be born with this, or your baby could be that, or, you know, your sister just lost her baby to this. You know what I mean? And so when you run into people, adults or children, who have that really prevalent fault or something wrong with me, oftentimes it goes back to that in utero time. And nobody did anything wrong. People feel what they feel. You know, I mean, if your doctor tells you, ooh, that baby could have a birth defect, what are you going to do except be tied up in some fear about it? But once they know the rest of the story, so my real strong impetus push in this work was, I was at a show in Pennsylvania, and this Navy admiral came up, retired Navy admiral, and asked me what I was doing. And I explained it to him, and I explained to him about, you know, how sometimes, you know, kids will have this, it's my fault. You know, I did this, it's my fault. And I explained to him how this can come up in the in utero pattern. And he said, Amy, you have to continue doing this work. This was our story. We went to therapy with our son for 5 years, and we lost him to suicide. He could not hear I love you from me. I was in the Navy. His mom got pregnant. I blew up. You can't be pregnant. I've got to be on active duty. I've got to go. I can't be here. And that child was born with the imprint of, I'm not wanted. And no matter what his dad said, this man could not hear I love you from his dad. And so, you know, this man he's retired, accomplished admiral. And he said, I know. He said, in 5 years of therapy, this conversation never happened. Never. And he said, I know, I just heard it. If this had been mentioned one time, I truly believe our son would still be here.
Oh, gosh. That's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking.
And it's a push behind my work.
Wow.
It's for people to find that, because just hearing it sometimes is enough to unlock it.
Yeah.
And I think that I just, like, things connect, you know, and so our daughter is always very, very cautious, and can be afraid to try new things. And thinking about that, I got pregnant older. then I had a miscarriage, and then I got pregnant with her, and I was so careful. And it was always, that. So I wonder if that transferred to her.
Right.
But in reality, since we're on new reality, in reality, it could very well just be that she has an ancestor that you may or may not be aware of who tried something new that had disastrous outcome.
Oh.
And so she's just automatically put on alert every time it's something new, like, this is new. So when people have patterns like that, I always tell them, do something that doesn't make a stitch of difference. Take guitar lesson, right? Take whatever. If you think it's tied to the pregnancy, just stick with it for 10 months, birth it. And that's usually enough to just really water out that pattern.
So people who are constantly broke, or they can't find that abundance over and over again, or they keep losing the jobs or whatever, this could have a root in their ancestral lineage.
Absolutely. So their ancestor had a good life right up until he got a bunch of money, and then somebody stole his wife. Somebody beat him up to an inch of his death, or somebody killed that person. I had a gal who had the altruism marking, doing something they regretted, and her mom was on the last boat leaving England during the war because of the torpedoing of ships, and she was pregnant. And there was another lady who was pregnant, more pregnant, and she said, you go first. So the lady went up. They got torpedoed. The woman grabbed the son, threw him up to the pregnant woman on the other ship, and her ship went down, but the other one got away. And that was that altruistic act.
Oh my gosh.
That turned into such a great disaster. Right.
Wow.
And so we don't think about these things. We just think it's me. We think, oh, it's them. They got this problem. But especially if someone's got a pattern that they just can't hang up, then oftentimes it's in that cellular memory, right? It's in that cellular memory from something. And women are born with their ovaries intact. So your daughter's been through your life and your mother's life. So that adds to the epigenetic pattern. It's just like a little extra magnetism. But just understanding and being able to kind of walk through it and figure it out and be like, this is probably an ancestral pattern. Maybe we should just try some silly little thing like taking a pottery class. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Experiment with it. Get a little creative and remind her every time she has done something new that went fantastic. But she's always going to have that trigger. That trigger's going to hit her. People who never finish their thesis, they have this challenge with where an ancestor signed something they regretted. Signature agreements is a big one I see all the time. Why did I sign that? Why didn't I wait? Yeah. Why didn't I read it? Why? The dynamics of how you got in that spot are the way to unlock it.
Wow. This is fascinating.
Oh my gosh, it
this
really
is incredible. I'm looking forward to watching your show on New Reality
I want to
TV.
binge it.
Yeah, no,
to see
absolutely.
everybody's stories.
Yeah.
Wow.
And thank you for taking the time and giving us a really deep dive into our eyes. Didn't expect you to go that deep into it, so we really appreciate you taking time to do that. But,
Well, feel free to send them over. I'll circle away for you.
okay, you're on. Absolutely, it'd be wonderful. If someone wanted to learn more about their eye or reach out and get your interpretation, what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
So Irigenics.com is my website, IRIGENICS, Irigenics.com. The app should be out. We'll see what ancestral patterns are at play, but it should be out between March 7th and 15th. So it's really right around the corner, and you'll be able to do your own eye photo, and it gives you a free short report, but you can also, I think the long report it's less than $10. I don't know if it's 8 or what it is, but it's over 55 pages of information.
Oh, wow.
about you, your eyes, and your ancestors. So, and if you get pictures as good as Will and Karen did, you got it in spades.
Awesome.
Oh
Well, Amy, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the show and having fun with us. And
It's been great. I can hang out and talk another hour.
Absolutely. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It has been my honor. Thank you so very much. Finally.
Yes. And a huge thank you to you. If you know someone who would benefit from hearing the message we're sharing on the show, do them and us a favor and share the show with them. It will help get the word out about us, and it might just change someone's life for the better. Well, that's all for now, but we'll see you on the next episode of the Skeptic Metaphysicians. Until then, take care.